welcome to another episode of Inspired Content. This is another movie week, and I'll be taking a look at a movie called Under the Tuscan Sun, which is something I believe I saw a few years ago. I kind of remember enjoying it, but I'll be looking at it for ideas and inspirations, and I'll give those on the other side. So, see you there. Under the Tuscan Sun. I'm definitely going to give this a 9.2 out of a 9.3. I mean, for me, at least, this is one of the best movies I can think of for showing really human characters in very human situations. It's not a super competent person who always knows the right thing to do, and it's not situations that always, if you know enough information, there's a way to win. It's just a series of happenstances and unfortunate situations that make up the life, but as you get through that series of events, the events themselves turn out to be a journey worth taking. So it's really well done. I think it's one of the best storytelling and character movies I've seen in a while. So 9.2 out of a 9.3. I would say, as far as ideas that it inspired, short story collection where the characters wish for some dream they think it's never going to they're never going to get. Just like we all kind of want something in life, and they're just, sometimes we can't have that. But when you voice that idea of like those things that you wish you could have but you know you can't, and then write stories about characters who do that, but in the same way that sort of happens in this movie, those wishes get granted in the way that maybe wasn't what they meant. It doesn't happen the way they meant it to happen, but what does happen is better in a sense than the sort of cliched dreams that they were dreaming. Like the realization that like you want to be in a relationship with a prince or princess, like in fairy tales, and then the realization of the process of doing that just seems like, oh, such a, like, it's not what you dreamed, and it would never be as fantasy as you imagine it to be. But if you got that wish granted in a way that was technically true but not what you meant, and it ended up being better than the dream you had, I want to see it like a small collection of stories like that. There's that little bit of the story in Under the Tuscan Sun of she keeps seeing an old man walk by and put flowers in a vase on the roadside every day, and she waves to him, and it's sort of just like these two people, they don't know each other, they don't know anything about each other, they've never really met, they just see each other occasionally in the passing of the courses of their lives. But there's a very real sense that that sort of ritual of them both being there and both seeing each other at that time is sort of important to the course of their lives. And I'd love to see a story written where two people who never meet and never know each other still have that effect on each other. That they make a meaningful impact in the life of each other just by their presence passing through on a regular basis. Okay, a story about an author whose writing about themselves, but like a perfect version of themselves as they imagine it. Someone who's glamorous and carefree, and they write this story of this person having this rich, fulfilling events happen in their life, and it's through the process of writing about this perfect version of themselves that we write it out as seeming like two people interacting. It's the author and this character, but it seems like two people, not one's a fake and one's the person creating the story, but like two friends interacting almost. But through the kind of thought exercise of exploring who you would be if you were that perfect person, realizing that the perfection isn't real, that the glamour is hollow, and that the carefreeness is shallow lack of cares, and through the process of realizing that the false emptiness of that perfect self, coming to a comfort and realization of the own richness of her own existence. And so that false character disappears in the process of writing about that character who's no longer who that author wants to be anymore. So that character disappears like the crutch that somebody uses to recover from an injury. It kind of gave me an idea for a video game where the goals set are impossible to achieve. Just kind of like do this story where you think the goal is to do this one thing, and no matter how much you try, how much you think it's possible, you'll never be able to achieve it. You'll get close over and over again. And yet the journey to do each of those steps are for fulfilling, exciting, beautiful experiences in their own right. And the goal seems a pittance in comparison to what you've experienced in the attempt to get it, that by the end of this, the series of goals, none of them were ever achieved, but so many wonderful, amazing journeys were had, it doesn't matter. It's sort of like you could only really play it that way once, but it would be, I think it would be, I have to find a way to do that. Okay, a story or a game where all the characters speak different languages, and I'd love to do this with actual languages, where nobody is speaking the same language, and you have to kind of, it's a group of people who didn't voluntarily come together. Somehow they ended up in the same place and have to work together towards common goals and experiences to try to get through to a certain end point. And by working together and learning bit by bit a little bit more about how to understand each other, even if it's just by body language or empathizing with the experiences of somebody else in the process of what you're doing, you sort of build a sense of communal identity with those people, sort of a family or a clan or a social grouping where you identify as one of that group, and you may pick up a few phrases or words in another language, but the process of not being able to resort to long verbose sentences and complex conversations, but really just associate with somebody else on the basis of common goals and empathy with the actions and feelings of others. And I think it would be a really hard story to write, but it would be an amazing one if you could do it right. I also think you could do it as a game, like a video game, maybe even a board game, but the idea of making a common goal that you're working towards but have that language barrier, and sort of kind of having to force yourself to empathize and feel and associate your goals and their goals together. It could make for a really interesting experience. And if I were to do it as a game, I would do 3 or 4 characters with different languages, but make it so that you could swap in new languages along the way. So if you wanted to play it again and have a different set of goals, and set it up so that as you do these things, you learn little bits and pieces of functional language skills. So every time you play it, you might pick up a little bit more out of a new language. Okay, the story of a rundown house whose original life was a simple, short, sweet life. Now it's just a rundown house, and somebody moves in and starts a new life in that house, and that house gets turned into a home, and it's the story of the life events of the families that live in that home, and the sort of examination and exploration of the human condition, but it's all done from the point of view of the house. Now, I'm not sure if this has to be done as a graphic novel, or it could be done maybe as a video, but I somehow kind of really feel like it needs a visual element, but I do think the overall story could be done as script. And so it's hard to imagine how I would do that, but I really think like that story of the human condition as seen through an object like a house, something that we all live in and get to a point of comfort and attachment to sometimes in life, that from the perspective of the house, what it means to be human and live life. Anyway, so yeah, those are the ideas for this time around. Hopefully there's some inspiration for some creative projects in there, and I'll see you for the next episode.